Hi there, I'm Jamie Taylor. Welcome to Your Health Matters, brought to you by Kingman Regional Medical Center, your community-owned hospital. As you know from watching this show, we have different healthcare professionals and folks from the community on this program every week talking about different programs, services offered here in Kingman or at KRMC. I've got two exciting guests on the show today, so stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Welcome back to Your Health Matters. I've got two guests on my show today, so you're in for a treat. I have Louis Varga. Thank you for being on the show today. And then at the break, we're going to have Jared Marks is going to join us as well. And you're both members of Mohave County Search and Rescue, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
We are members of an organization that is a nonprofit organization, but we operate at the wishes of the sheriff to complete his mandate under law to do search and rescue for the county.
Find people that are lost or that are in a bad situation. Right?
We hope to find them alive, and sometimes we have some very exciting rescues.
Well, I want to hear more about those kind of things, but first I want to talk, this is a volunteer group, isn't it?
That's correct. It's an all-volunteer group. We're not supported by any government funds other than our fuel.
Oh, okay.
We have fundraisers to raise money to buy our equipment, but we all have to supply our own vehicles, clothes, and personal equipment.
Okay, now what kind of vehicles do you need?
Well, you have to have a four-wheel drive vehicle.
Okay, so truck or quad or?
Yes, a lot of us have Jeeps,
Okay.
and some have quads. They go out on quads, but we have to supply our own equipment,
Okay.
and we do a lot of training.
That's what I would think, because from what I understand, and I think we'll hear more from Jared about that later, but you have to like be able to climb ropes and hike down canyons and...
Well, actually, there is a place for anyone that wants to join the organization.
Okay. So you don't have to be athletic or
No.
in really great shape.
No, our
Okay.
minimum age is 18, but we have one gentleman that is approaching 80.
Wow.
And he is active in the command post, and he also does a lot of phoning whenever there's a search or a rescue.
Okay, so he's like your communication person?
That's right.
So like you radio to him and or he'd radio to you updates?
Well, our searches usually start in the middle of the night, unfortunately. But so there's a lot of phone calls that are involved, finding members that can go on the search.
Okay.
And once we get out on the search, we have a command post team that operates in the command post, organizing the search.
Okay.
And then we have the younger fellows that actually go out and do the walking and
Okay.
the climbing down the ropes.
Okay, very good. And like you said, it's all volunteer. That's pretty amazing right there. And you're going to get calls like an OB doc in the middle of the night to wake you up and be ready to go.
Well, you know, search and rescue is a little different than most other service organizations. It does demand a lot of training, but most of us are avid outdoorsmen,
Okay.
and some are hunters. And this just falls naturally into tracking. We use that quite a bit.
Okay.
And being in the mountains. I guess the only crazy part is that we seem to do this in the middle of the night after we get a call.
So do you have like night vision goggles and things like that you have to
No,
that help? No?
we don't, but we work very closely with the DPS helicopter.
Okay.
And they do have night
So
vision
they,
goggles.
yeah, they fly over and can see that a little better in the middle of the night, give you direction.
That's right.
And you said you didn't have to be in really good shape, but I would think, and you have to know first aid, obviously, right? Because you never know what you're going to find if you find the person you're looking for.
That's correct. We all have to be certified in CPR and in
Okay.
first aid.
Okay. And is that like just like a healthcare professional here at the hospital? Every 2 years they have to get recertified. So I would guess same kind of
Yes.
thing for you.
The same for us too. We have
Okay.
to be certified. Everyone has to be certified in CPR and first aid. And
Okay.
then we have some that have to be certified in rope for the rope rescuers.
Okay.
And some of us actually are crazy enough to rappel out of helicopters,
Oh,
and we have to be certified for that.
so that's a different well, I suppose that makes sense because that's a lot higher up than just going down a road.
Right, right. Well,
That's-
sometimes we have to question our sanity rappelling out of a perfectly good helicopter.
But that's awesome that you do that. And like, how often do you get called out? Is it pretty frequent?
We average about 50 calls a year.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say a month at first, and I was like, oh my goodness.
And it seems to always come in groups.
Interesting.
We may go 2 months without any calls, and then we'll go 1 week where we have 3 or 4 calls.
Huh. Is it the time of year, maybe, when it's cooler, people are hiking more?
Yes, you're right. When
I
the
would
weather
bet,
gets
yeah.
nice, people want to go outside and enjoy
Yeah.
the outdoors, and that's when they sometimes get in trouble.
Yeah, they either get lost, fall, get stuck type of thing.
Right.
Yeah. What other kinds of bizarre incidents have you encountered?
Well, most of our searches are people that just run into some bad luck. We had a search 2 weeks ago in the Arizona Strip where a young man was out looking at the geology and his vehicle broke down, but he was 60 miles from the nearest town.
Oh,
And the temperature was dropping to 18 degrees.
oh yeah, yeah.
So
That's as bad as when it gets to 120.
that's correct.
two
And
different
it puts the
extremes.
people in a survival situation because they're so far away, no cell service,
Oh.
and if they're out there for very long, they'll run out of food and water. And
So like in that instance, how did you even know he was in trouble?
well, luckily, most people will leave word with somebody.
That they're going?
And he told his father that he was going out, and when he didn't come home, his father was worried, dialed 911,
Okay.
and we were called, and of course, always at night. We were called Sunday night, and we drove up to St. George and then down into the Strip.
Wow. So I would bet it's a lot of weekends too. Same kind of thing.
Well, it's a lot
weekends
of weekends, but also we have them during the week, which is really rough to search all night and then have to go to work
yeah,
the
because
next morning.
most of you have other jobs.
Right. Most of us have other jobs. Some are retired, and that's why it's great to have the young people because they can put up with that.
They can wake up a little easier. So is it all of Mojave County then? Because you mentioned the Arizona Strip, so that's all the northwest corner.
Right.
So
Well, by Arizona statute, the sheriff of each county is mandated to have a search and rescue unit.
Okay.
So in Mojave County, we cover the entire county.
That's
We
a
have
lot.
3 units. We have a Havasu unit, a
Okay.
Bullhead unit, and a Kingman unit.
Okay.
And we're
They're all
just,
kind of close together though.
that's right, and we're just forming a unit in Beaver Dam.
Okay, because that's what I was going to say, because none of the 3 of those are that close to that northwest corner.
No, I know it, and I hope they get going quick because that's a long
That
drive.
is. That's a long drive to get up there and then to go to work
Right.
and find the person that's having the trouble on top of that. So you've got a good couple of hours just getting set up and ready to go.
Well, it's a 4-hour drive to St. George.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that far.
4 hours, and then usually the searches are down close to the north rim of the Grand Canyon, and that's another about 3 hours out of St. George.
Oh, wow. So you're talking 7 hours. So
Yes,
it's
just
pretty
to
much the
start
next
searching.
morning from the time you get the call, probably.
Well, usually
Yeah.
it is, yes.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. So then you go all the way out like Peach Springs and down to Parker then almost.
Right, all the way to the Bill Williams River,
Okay.
and we have a lot of searches in the Havasu area because there's a very popular area called Standard Wash where people go to four-wheel and on ATVs.
Okay. So you get called in there quite a bit.
Right, and as I mentioned to you, we also have a rope team. And I don't know if you remember the 2 young girls that fell into the mine shaft
Oh, yes.
in
yes,
2007.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
we were the first responders that went to the mine shaft and pulled the girls out.
Oh, so you see lots of not fun stuff.
Sometimes it's not, but it's always very rewarding
Right.
because it's our way to serve the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of us are not very good for sitting in meetings or politics, and this is how we like to serve the community.
Hands-on. That's pretty cool. Now you said certified in roping, or I mean rope climbing.
Yes.
So what kind of, is it just a matter of having to have lots of really good muscles, or what kind of?
No, actually, it's just learning to tie the correct knots and to setting up these systems. And as I was saying, you don't really have to be that strong. You just have to be trained correctly.
Okay.
And keep calm in very tense situations.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So the rope training, we do our own training here in Mojave County.
Oh, okay.
So
So you don't have to go somewhere else to learn.
That's correct.
You do it here.
Yeah, we do all our own certification except for the medical, the CPR and the
Okay.
first aid, which sometimes we've approached the hospital and they very graciously have helped us with the certification.
Good, that's good. So, like, how long have you been doing this, Louis?
Well,
If you don't mind my asking.
14 years.
All right. And 50 a year, that's a lot of rescues. Have you been
Well,
on most of them?
I try to make as many as I can. I have been on a number of different rescues and searches. And I think, as I say, my most satisfying rescue was the one in the mine shaft.
Wow.
Because anytime it involves children,
Right.
of course, we really get on the
Yeah,
stick
that's-
and get moving.
Sure, because that's when, well, we know our kids and how dear they are to us, and
That's correct.
plus they're the most likely to panic or be afraid if they're in those kind of situations. So I'm sure you're trained in that kind of stuff too, as far as being able to calm and allay fears and help keep people calm during that rescue. Because then you not only do you find them, then you got to get them out of wherever they're at, right?
Well, that's correct. And sometimes there are other factors that add to the tenseness of the situation. In the mine shaft rescue, there were family members that were around the mine shaft that were, as you can well expect, they were reacting
Sure.
in a very
Upset manner.
upset manner. There were news helicopters flying above us.
Right.
So there was a lot going on, and we have to stay focused on what we're doing because we are at risk also.
Sure. Yeah, those are not good conditions usually that you're working under.
Right.
Well, that's exciting. I mean, it's just amazing what you do and exciting. We're going to take a quick break, and then I think we're going to have Jared come on and actually talk about a situation you were in not too long ago.
That's right. I
Okay.
think he can best describe the boundary cone rescue.
Okay, very good. We'll be back right after these messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Your Health Matters. Before the break, we talked with Louis Varga from Mojave Search and Rescue, and now I have Jared Marks. Thanks for being on the show, Jared.
Thank you for having me.
Now, before I forget, because I think once we start talking about this rescue, we'll run out of time probably. So let's talk, if someone wants to join Mojave Search and Rescue, what do they do?
We do have a website. It's called mojavesearch.com.
Okay.
That's one way to get started. And you go in there, check it out, and you can show up for the meetings and start from there.
Okay, so you meet like monthly? Just
We
have
meet,
regular?
once a month.
Okay. Where at?
and At the sheriff's office.
Okay. And is there a certain day that it is?
It's last Thursday of every month, I believe.
Okay. And then they just come to the sheriff's office in the evening, I'm thinking,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay, very good. So they can go to mojavesearch.com.
Yes.
That'll give them more information, who to contact, more
Yeah.
about what it takes to be.
It's a very thorough website. It gives you a lot of information.
Good. Is that how you got into it?
No, I had a cousin that
Oh.
was already in it.
Okay, and they convinced you to
He
come in and
convinced
try?
me to join.
Good. So Louis was telling us something about Boundary Cone. There's some rescue you were involved with.
There was a rope rescue on Boundary Cone Pass, which is a quite large mountain right outside of Oatman on the Bullhead side.
Oh, okay, okay.
So apparently a 21-year-old kid and a couple of his friends were hiking. They climbed up the back side of it, and this one particular kid decided to take a shortcut
Oh.
on the other end. Unfortunately, he didn't make it all the way down, but he fell quite a ways.
Oh, so when you said shortcut, it wasn't the planned
So
shortcut?
it was not a shortcut at all.
No. So how far did he fall?
We really don't know.
Oh.
He did break a couple bones,
Oh.
and he was unable to
Climb
get
back
himself
up.
out of there, yeah.
So was, like in his fall, did he get wedged or anything?
No,
was just,
he very fortunately fell and landed on a cliff edge
oh,
and managed to work his way into kind of like a tunnel type thing on the side of the mountain and just
okay, so
stayed
kind
there
of
and
get
waited
out of
for
the
help.
elements a little
Yeah.
bit.
And that was when his friends called 911, and then
And
we
you
all
guys
started
went.
getting phone calls, and
Okay.
we started heading that direction.
So now, when you say we all, so how many of you showed up that night?
Originally, there was probably 7 or 8, I want to say.
Okay.
And then we hiked up to the saddle of the mountain, and we were able to see the patient, but we couldn't get to the patient. He was still every bit of 300 or 400 feet above where we could walk to.
Above you.
Yeah. So
Okay.
at that time, they called in the DPS helicopter and literally picked us up from the saddle and brought us up to the top of the mountain.
Well, so you didn't have to hike all the way up.
Well, it was still a long hike to the saddle. So, and we hiked with most of our gear to that saddle, and then the helicopter took us from the saddle up to the top of the mountain, which
Wow.
was every bit of 1,200 feet, almost vertical.
Wow.
So we got dropped off at the top of the mountain, or on top of the boundary cone, and
I'm envisioning that's why it's got its name Boundary Cone. 'Cause
yeah,
it's a peak.
it's very
It-
looks more like a big ball.
Okay.
So, and we got dropped off up there at night. It was nighttime by the time this happened, and there was 6 or 7 of us on top of the mountain, and we basically set up a rope system, and we got a medic down to the patient first and verified that he was okay and didn't need any serious medical attention. And at that moment, it was unsafe for us to do a night rope lift or be able to use the helicopter to
Because it was dark and hard
to
to
extricate
see.
the people.
Yeah.
So what we did is we made sure he was going to be okay and make it through the night, and then we literally spent the night on top of the mountain,
Oh.
waited for sunlight, and then as sunlight came, another helicopter was en route, and we set up another rappel line, and I basically loaded up all my gear and a litter basket and rappelled down to the patient and our medic, and
The medic spent the night on the shelf with him?
the medic spent the night on the shelf with the patient.
Okay.
And we stayed there for a good hour or so, made sure everything was good, got the patient packaged, and
Into
then
the litter basket you're
into
talking
the litter
about?
basket,
Okay.
and then proceeded to make sure the DPS could short haul us out. And
So they came, is this kind of like what you see in the movies where the helicopter comes over with the line and you hook them up?
It's exactly.
Is
yeah,
it?
Yes. Yeah. So as you can imagine, things are going through your head
Yeah.
because you see all the movies with the people spinning and what have you.
Right.
So anyway, they were able to do that. So we hooked on to the patient, and then I hooked on with the patient and proceeded to be lifted away from the
Well, that must
mountain.
have been kind of exciting too.
It was by far the best ride I've ever had. So it was very fun.
Cool, that's awesome. So you went up with the patient, and then what happened to the medic?
The medic got a ride after we got dropped off at the landing zone. The helicopter came back and picked up the medic, and
the
then proceeded to pick
supplies.
up our other rescuers on top of the mountain.
So when you were talking about your gear, when you're in situations like that, what do you bring, like a sleeping bag or a tent or something if you
Not
think you're gonna?
normally. You don't. You have gear for 24 hours.
Okay.
You have to be self-sufficient for 24 hours.
So that's food and water.
Yeah, food, water, extra clothing if you needed, hand warmers. I mean, it was. I'm not sure what time of the year it was, but it got cold that night.
I was just
And
gonna say,
we-
well, it's February probably, end
Right.
of January, so.
On one of the last lifts to get extra help up to the top of the mountain, they did bring some sleeping bags for a few of us, and we were as comfortable as could be on top of the mountain.
Yeah, it's
So-
not exactly a soft place,
we
you know,
didn't
no
sleep very well.
pillows, yeah.
So,
Well, plus your adrenaline's going and probably planning ahead, thinking what you're gonna be doing.
Yeah.
And you make sure you've got everything.
mentally preparing
Okay.
for it and physically preparing for it
Yeah.
is the mental part's the hardest.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And then, well, and there, because it's both physically and mentally challenging too. So obviously Louis was talking about the rope certification, so you are obviously a rope certified
I am
individual.
not only rope certified but TRT, and in the process of doing a couple other certifications. And,
What's TRT?
technical rope training.
Oh, so that's a higher level?
It is a higher level. That's what actually allows you to go over the edge and hang off of a rope, so to speak. So it's work, and it's all in your mind. So it's mind over matter. Just go over the edge.
I'm thinking it's more than just mind.
So,
Because just hanging onto a rope over the, I mean, yeah, I can see the mental, obviously, being able to put yourself to do it, but you still have to be pretty physically strong to hold on to that rope.
yeah, you
Lower
definitely,
yourself down.
because not only are you carrying yourself, you're also carrying 20 to 40 pound of your personal
Pack
gear,
on your
and
back.
then you've got your harness, and like when I went down with a litter basket and an additional first aid kit, with more water for the patient and the medic.
Okay.
So
So when you're rappelling down and you're doing that, obviously I would guess that you have to be able to set up in areas where you don't necessarily have a tree to tie that rope to.
right, this particular incident, we probably had enough room for 5 of us, and we were touching each other. We had to constantly
up.
move in and out of each other, no bigger than where we're sitting right now.
That was
And
the top of the mountain?
That was the area that we could work around
Oh.
to be able to rappel down to where this patient was. That was the hardest part.
And what did you tie off to?
We tied off to big boulders.
Oh, okay. So there's
So we
some-
literally wrapped ropes around large boulders,
Okay.
and half the mountain, it felt like.
Yeah.
And that's what we used as
And
an
a good,
anchor.
well, and obviously you must have really long ropes, because I wouldn't think you'd tie too many together, right?
We have 100-foot ropes, we have 300-foot ropes, 600-foot ropes. We've got
Depending on the situation.
lots of different ropes.
Wow. And now, does the sheriff help with those kind of supplies, or does the group
I
have to?
believe the sheriff's office does help buy
Okay.
the rope per se, but not necessarily our personal rope gear. So they do purchase the rope that we use to go up and down.
Okay.
So
So in this particular case, it was a happy ending, right? You
it was a very
rescued
happy
him?
ending. Yes, it was ironic because on our little flight around from where we got lifted off the mountain to the landing zone, the patient asked me, "How's the view?" So I said, "You're missing a heck of a ride."
Oh.
So he was very happy to be down on the ground, and he did get medical attention and sent us a thank you letter. In fact, his
Great.
family sent us a thank you letter, and he turned out very well. So
Good. Now, landing zone, is that you bring them here to the hospital, or where do they
It
put
was-
down at?
it was a landing zone close to the area of the incident.
Okay.
So-
you try to land close there
Yeah.
and then have an ambulance or whatever on hand to
Exactly.
transport them back over. Wow. And I'm sure that's only one. I mean, how long have you been doing this, Jared?
I've been doing this for 3 years.
Okay, so Louis was talking before the break about doing about 50 a year, so.
Yeah, and he's right on target. They all happen around 10:30 at night.
Right.
This boundary cone one, ironically, was around 2:33.
At
so
night?
it wasn't. Oh, in the afternoon.
Oh,
Is when we
okay.
found out about
Okay.
it. But a lot of people, they go out hiking and they didn't realize the time, or
Right.
it starts to get, and sunset comes and they don't have water, they don't have a flashlight, they don't
Right.
have a cell phone, and their significant others call 911 and say they're missing.
Right, and we kind of think they're in this general area.
90% of the time they usually know where they're at.
Well,
They got
that's-
an idea.
Yeah.
So,
I forgot to ask, because you mentioned that he had friends that were with him when the accident
Yes.
happened. They called 911. Then did they stay up there with you guys too?
they initially hung out with us in the saddle of the mountain, but
Okay.
after we all got lifted up to the top, I believe they went home.
Okay.
But they came back that next morning because I know they were there when we
When you brought
landed.
him down?
Yep.
Very good. Yeah, well, they'll have stories to tell their kids, huh?
Oh yeah.
This is what not to do.
Yeah.
This is how you don't go down a mountain.
So honestly, I can say in most of our adventures, a lot of people will go out hiking. They don't realize the time.
Yeah,
And the
just
best
lose
thing that they
track.
can do if they do get lost or realize that they're running out of time is just stay put.
Right.
We will find you.
That's awesome. That's great to know that we have that service available. So thank you, Jared, for being on the program, for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Don't forget to go to mojavesearch.com if you have more questions, would like more information. Join us next week. We'll have another exciting guest on it.